Luckily, as the chair of the Senate Health, Education, Labour and Pensions, or HELP, committee, that was his prerogative. After running between US Senate buildings trying to obtain my press credentials on a crisp November day, I made it to the hearing room just in time to hear Senator Alexander hailing CRISPR as just one of the amazing discoveries that has come from basic research funded in part by the federal government. But he was alarmed by designer baby headlines and a report from James Clapper, the former US head of national security, that genome editing had been classified as a potential weapon of mass destruction. Testifying before the HELP committee were 3 CRISPR experts, a CEO, a physician, and a bioethicist. There are a few times in our lives when science astonishes us. This is one of those moments, said Katrine Bosley, the CEO at the time of Editas Medicine, the first CRISPR biotech company to go public. There are some 6,000 known genetic diseases, Bosley testified. What if we could repair those broken genes, she asked. We owe a responsibility to patients and their families. But Bosley cautioned it would be a long road ahead. Cures was a big word, and Bosley, speaking on behalf of the biotech industry, didn't want to overpromise. Most of the senators stayed only long enough to ask their individual questions before ducking out for more pressing business. Susan Collins, senator from Maine, came out swinging. It would be possible for genes to be edited that could affect intelligence or athletic ability. We live in a global world. It seems that the scientific advancements have outpaced policy in this area. How do we ensure this exciting breakthrough in gene editing is used for good by scientists in countries like China or Russia, as well as in our own country? I rolled my eyes and winked at science writer Emily Mullen. We'd barely started the questions, and already the predictable designer baby trope had come up. But Jeffrey Kahn, a bioethicist at Johns Hopkins University, agreed that science advancement usually outpaces policy. We do have robust structures for oversight that these technologies are used for purposes we intend. International dialogue is happening, he said reassuringly. A much smarter approach is to restrict control, to allow careful, responsible science to go forward, within our borders, not to push them out. African-American Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina wanted to know about the prospects of curing sickle cell disease, SCD. The third witness, Stanford University physician-scientist Matthew Porteous, said he was preparing to enroll some very brave volunteers in a groundbreaking clinical trial. His team would harvest the patient's stem cells, use CRISPR to edit the gene that carries the sickle cell mutation, correcting a single letter in the 3 billion letters of the human genome. They would next return about 1 billion edited stem cells via IV to the patient. These fixed cells would find their way back to the bone marrow and reconstitute the patient's blood. With any luck, the patient will no longer have their disease. That's pretty cool, said Scott. And then he left. Virginia Senator Tim Kaine asked if CRISPR had any relevance for Alzheimer's disease, but Bosley wasn't so optimistic. New therapies were further out, she said, because the genetics was more complicated than, say, SCD. Kaine also asked about regulatory oversight. Kahn pointed to the UK,